Hi there, welcome to Because Hobby. My name's Polly and today we're going to be painting a Necron Warrior using the Warhammer 40k paints and tools set. So here's my warrior all sprayed up ready. I've base coated him in the spray paint Chaos Black. You don't have to use the spray paint, you can just paint him completely Abaddon Black if you wish to. Got my paintbrush. That brush just comes in the kit. So the paints we need, we're going to need some Rune Lord Brass, some Lead Belcher, Rune Fang Steel, Abaddon Black, Corax White, Tesseract Glow, and I've also got a wash called Agrax Earthshade. So today we're going to be painting the Necron Warrior in the style of the box art, so that's just the standard box art you'd find on the Paints and Tools set box. Right, let's paint. Right, so we're going to start off with 2 thin layers of Rune Lord Brass. Make sure you give the paint a really good shake before you open it, as the metallics tend to split. Right, so we're going to pop the paint on the palette and we're going to mix a little water with it. Now this is going to thin down the paint and make it much easier to work with. It's not going to clog up the cracks and creases in the model, it's not going to obscure any detail. So you're going for about a 50-50 mix, so like 1 brush full of paint equals 1 brush full of water. If you over thin or under thin your paint, don't worry about that too much because you can really easily correct it. So here I'm just testing the paint thickness on the back of my hand. I like to do it on the back of my hand, some people use the palettes as paper, but I find if you can see the little cracks of your skin through the paint, it's quite a good consistency to work with. So we're just going to go straight in with the Rune Lord Brass. We're going to do 2 thin coats. Don't worry too much if you mess up, get it on a place you're not really wanting to, because as this is just the very base layer, we're going to cover everything else with different types of paint. So don't worry if you get it on your base, don't worry too much if you get it on your gun. But really focus and try and get it on all the metallic parts of your model. A nice flat coverage, nice and even. Try and get it in all the cracks as well, but like I say, if you miss a little bit or if you get it somewhere you're not meant to, don't worry too much. You don't have to focus too hard on painting inside the lines. So I'm just focusing on getting all the nice big flat surfaces first, and then I'll go in with the details later on. I like to do it in sort of sections and chunks just because it makes it a bit easier, and then you can really quickly see what bits you've missed. So I'll finish up this model with 2 thin coats and I'll bring you back when it's dry. Right, so here it is all dry. That's my 2 thin coats of Rune Lord Brass. As you can see, I've messed up a little bit. I've got a little bit of paint onto the base. Don't worry about it. It's gonna happen, but you can really easily cover it up. So the reason you want 2 flat coats, it creates a really nice deep colour and you can't see the base layer through the paint. It just helps to achieve a much more polished look. Like I said before, if you've got a bit of paint somewhere it's not really meant to go, just don't worry about it. I've got a bit on the gun, a bit on the base, and these pieces are going to be repainted. They're going to be covered up anyway, so it really doesn't matter. As long as you've got a good solid coat of your base colour over all the model, you're good to go. So next step, we're going to be going in with our Abaddon Black. Give it a really good shake before you open the pot. Pop a little on your palette and we're going to water it down again just slightly. Watering down the paints really does help to preserve the detail. So testing it on my hand, really clean off that brush. You don't want any excess paint on the brush that's not meant to be there. So as you can see, I'm just going on the barrel of the gun. Now we want to avoid, if we can, any places that we're going to be painting metal. But like I said before, it really doesn't matter if you slip up or you put a little bit where it's not meant to be, because this could be so easily remedied. You might be thinking, why are we bothering to paint it black if it's already base coated in black colour? You can skip this step. I just find that it's really beneficial to add the extra layer of black. It gives it a nice, deep and consistent colour. So I'm just painting all the places that need to be black, paying extra special attention to the small details on the grip and on the stock around the Necron's hand. We don't really want to get any on the metallics we've already painted, but like I said, it's not an issue if you do, because you can always go back with your Ruin Lord brass and cover those bits up. So I'll bring you back when all the black's painted up and dry. Now the black's all done, I'm going to be picking out the details on the Necron using lead belcher. So once again, give it a shake, pop it on your palette. As with the Ruin Lord brass, make sure you shake it up really well, because the metallic pigments do tend to separate a bit more than the usual pigments. Once again, we're going to water it down and we're going to do another 2 thin coats. Just mix that together. I'm testing it on my hand. I've decided to add a little more water because it was slightly too thick. I don't want any of those details being obscured. Brush, create the point on your brush. Right, so with this lead belcher, we're going to be going for all the little inlays and rivets of the Necron Warrior, all the parts below his armour that are kind of holding him together. So just make sure you pay attention to any bits under the armour that are showing, any ball joints like on his feet or in his hips. I'm also going to choose to paint up his spine as well, but you don't have to do that. And I'm going to paint the back of his head. We're also going to pick out the parts on his weapon that we want to be metallic. Again, pay nice close attention to where you're painting. Try and get it only in the places you want the paint, but please don't worry if you can't. I mess up all the time. So if we do mess up, we're just going to simply take the colour that we've accidentally gone onto and just cover it up once it's dry. Just getting his legs. He's got some little bolts holding his knees together, so make sure you get those too. Any sort of things that look like rivets or little pipes or screws within the warrior, make sure you get those. So I'm also painting the hip joints, I suppose you'd call them, or the hip bones of the Necron Warrior, and I'm going to bring that up his spine into the back of his head. And we're just going to paint the parts of the weapon that we want metallic, so the little spiky sword, I suppose you'd call it, that's attached underneath. Just paying nice careful attention. Like I keep saying, it really doesn't matter if you mess up, because everybody does. It's so easy to do, especially if you're not used to painting models. And you can just go back with your previous colour and correct. So I'll bring you back when that's all dry. Right, so here he is all dry. So the colours we've got on him so far are Rune Lord Brass, Abaddon Black and Lead Belcher. So my character here has a special base. It's got some little rocks on it. Your base may not have this at all, but I'm just going to quickly paint it up. So I'm just going for a little mixture of black and white, because there is no grey provided in the set. So just 50-50 with your Abaddon Black and your Corax White. Now you don't have to do this. You could use the technical paint that's provided. You could use any colour you want for your base. Just for me, personal preference, I'm painting it grey. Right, so now I've got my base all painted up. Here he is, he's ready for the next step now. And the reason I chose to paint the base now is because I'm going to give the whole model a really good coat of Agrax Earthshake wash. Now for these washes, you don't have to shake them, but I like to. So you're not going to water it down, you're just going to get a nice healthy brushful and slap it on your model. Now I'm not really sure if there's any given way to do this, I'm sure there is, but I haven't really found any techniques apart from just whacking it on there. Now pay close attention, make sure it's not pooling in the places you don't want it to pool. So on the big flat shoulder pads for instance, there's no inlays or rivets for the wash to fill, so it might just sit there. So once you've got it painted, you can kind of go over with the dry brush and just sponge up the little bits of excess wash you don't really want. Now the wash is going to take a very long time to dry, 20 minutes to an hour. So make yourself a cup of tea after you've done this step and sit back and watch paint dry. So I'm just making sure I get all the little creases and inlays. And what a wash does is it really makes the model pop. It darkens down the inlays. It brings out all the little details, so the raised points of the model stay bright, but the lower points of the model go nice and dark. This adds a really nice natural effect to the model. So I'll bring you back when my wash is done and it's all dry. So here he is. He's a little bit blurry, sorry about that. You can see my wash is completely dry and it's really warmed up those tones, and it's really made the base pop as well. So you can just see in all the little crevices and inlays on the model, they're nice and dark now, you can really notice them. It just brings out those details to a really lovely high level you wouldn't notice without the use of wash. Right, so now I'm using Runefang Steel. We're going to dry brush Runefang Steel on. So what you need is a little flathead brush like this. Now this isn't provided with the kit, it's just one I have. If you don't have one, that's alright, you can use a brush, although it will damage the life of your brush. So you're going to take it straight from the pot. You don't need too much. And you're just going to wipe it on your paper. You're going to get the majority of it off, but you still want to be able to see a little bit left behind. And what I'm doing here is I'm just running the brush along all the edges of the model I want to be highlighted. Now what dry brushing does is it allows the paint to catch on the highest points of the model, so it brings out a really nice highlight to things. So you're just brushing all over, paying special attention to the bits you want particularly highlight. So I'm focusing on the arms, the face, the chest, and the very edges of the shoulder pads and down the spine. bring you back when that's dry. Here's our little Necron Warrior. Now he's almost done, there's a few more steps that need to be completed, but he's had his dry brush and I think he's looking pretty good. Okay, so now we're going in with Corax White. So we're just giving it a shake, popping a little bit on the palette. You really do only need a tiny amount for this. So we're going to water that down slightly. So we're just going to pop the white on all the places we want to use the Tesseract glow. And this is going to allow that glow to have a really bright background to work its green magic on. So we're just painting all the wires that are going to be glowing. And we're also painting the little orbs on the weapon. Now don't worry too much if you do go outside the smaller details. With Tesseract Glow, it doesn't really have to be just on the orbs because it will overspill slightly. So it doesn't matter too much. If you're really bothered by it, you can go back over with the black and touch up those. I probably will. I didn't do a very good job of this, sorry about that. So I'm just getting all those orbs everywhere I want to be green. So paying special attention to all the wires that hang down off his gun. And he's also got a few wires on his chest piece as well. So I want those to glow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very carefully reach under the weapon and just paint those up nice and white, ready for the green. There we go. So once again, don't worry if you make a mistake with it because you can cover it up. Right, so I'll let that dry and bring you back. Right, so I forgot to mention this paint before, but we're actually using Retributor armour. Now I'm taking it straight from the pot. I'm just going to paint that little crest on his chest. I want that nice bright gold that's really going to pop against those brassy and silver tones on the rest of the model. So the whites will dry and we're going to go in with our Tesseract Glow. So with these technical paints you have to give them a very good shake. They love to split and they look quite disgusting actually. But so we're not going to water it down at all. We're going to treat it exactly like we are a wash, but we're just going to be a bit more delicate with where we put it. So anywhere you painted white, you're just going to put a nice healthy amount of your Tesseract Glow on there. So I'm going in for the wire on his gun and the little glowing orbs as well. And like I said, if you did overspill with the white slightly, it doesn't really matter because it just makes it look like the plasma is overspilling too. So this paint is going to be very, very liquidy. So it's going to flow into all the recesses, which is actually very nice because you can make it sort of flow into the parts of the gun you wouldn't normally be able to reach with a standard paint. Getting the other side of the wire, and I'm getting the wires on his chest plate too. Now your model may not have any wires dangling off their chest plate. There may be more, there may be less. It doesn't really matter if your model doesn't have any, but if it does, just make sure you get them because it really does help to add a nice rounded look and completed look to the model. needed a little bit more, and I'm just going in for the eyes. Now for the eyes, I didn't do them white because I wanted to leave them slightly duller, but you're going straight from the front with your brush. Try and get as nice a little point on that brush as you can. You come straight in from the front with only a tiny amount of paint on your brush. Don't worry if you mess up the eyes, I do constantly. So if you do overspill or go outside them a little bit, just take the colour you painted the face with and very gently just draw around the eyes with the paint, tidy that up, make the face look nice and fresh. Right, so now we're going to be using the Abaddon Black and the Corax White to mix up another grey. We're going to go for quite a dark grey here because we're going to use this to highlight the gun. So we want it lighter than black, but not so light that it looks grey, if that makes sense. So we just want a very, if you imagine gunmetal kind of shining in the sun, that's kind of the look we're going for here. So this is much too light. So just before I get some more black, I'll clean my brush off. Some more black in, and really this is personal preference. You can make it as light or as dark as you like. I just prefer to have it slightly darker when I'm using black as the base coat colour. Add a little bit more black, and if you want to, you can skip this step. It's not compulsory. You don't have to do it if you're not comfortable doing those sort of small details. With that colour, so I'm just testing it on the back of my hand. Any hard lines on the gun, we're just going to do a nice smooth sweeping motion just to bring out the highlight of that panel. Going for the little top bit, going for the sides of the gun, going down along the grip. Just make sure you get the corresponding side for every angle you've got. Like I said, if you're not confident about your ability to do this, you really don't have to. Your model will look just fine as it is. But this just adds another little additional step to really bring that model together. So I'm going along the barrel of the gun now, just along the top, one smooth line. So I'll bring it back when he's dry. Right, so now we're going in for another dry brush of Rune Lord Brass. Again, as is when we dry brushed on the Rune Fang Steel, with the Rune Lord Brass we just want to take a little bit on our dry brush and wipe it off on a piece of paper, just so there's only a very small amount left. And we're focusing on the areas that we painted Rune Lord Brass to begin with. So we're just adding another little layer of brassy tone, really making the model pop. So I'm just focusing on his shoulder pads, on his arms, anywhere that I'd painted brass before. Getting on his chest a little bit and on his face as well. I'm avoiding the back of his head because I painted the back of his head in lead belcher, not in Rune Lord Brass. Backs of his legs. Now you don't have to do this step, I just like to give all my models a secondary dry brush. I just feel like it really brings them together. So here he is, our Necron Warrior, all painted up and ready to play. I think he's come out really nicely. So all that's left to do now to make him tabletop ready is to paint his base in black. You don't have to choose black. You can choose any colour you want really, but I feel black looks the nicest. I don't normally paint my models in the style of the box art. I like to sort of have my own colours and throw them in how I kind of want to paint. But I think he's actually turned out really nice, and I definitely consider this scheme for my Necrons as I move forward with them. So that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. This is a new channel and we really do appreciate any interaction we have with you here. So please comment, like, dislike if you didn't like it, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what we're doing right. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed painting it. I hope to get some comments from you guys, letting me know what you liked, what you didn't like about it. If you liked the video, please give us a like, maybe even subscribe if you fancy it. But thank you so much for watching through to the end. It really does mean a lot to me and to Sean. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, keep painting.